Okay, so
Go.
we're group two, known as Gerard and his carriers, and we're about to present um, the Republic Act of 9275, parts chapter 1 and 7. Next. Chapter 1 is just the general provisions. This will mostly give what the act is meant to do, what the act is meant to do. Next. Article 1, Declaration of Principles and Policies. Next, Section 1. Um, Basically, the Republic Act will be known as the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004. So everything in this act will be related to clean water. Next, quoted from the Republic Act itself, this is their declaration of policy, saying that the state shall pursue a policy of economic growth in a manner consistent with the protection, preservation, and revival of the quality of fresh, brackish, and marine waters. So, in order to complete this, the state promised to they will streamline processes and procedures, make them easier to follow in the prevention, control, and abatement of pollutions. And then they will promote environmental strategies in order to appropriate economic instruments to control and protect our water resources that are precious to us. Then they're going to formulate an integrated water quality management framework. They will also promote commercial and industrial products and services that relate to water quality protection. Then they will encourage the cooperation and self-regulation of among citizens and industries in the application of uh, instruments that will help in the uh, instruments that that help with public health and the environment. Um, Next, they will provide a comprehensive management system that goes to management programs for water pollution, focusing on pollution prevention. Um, they will also promote uh, public uh, public information and education regarding the situation of our water quality in the Philippines. Uh, then they will formulate and enforce a system of accountability. So there will be rules and regulations about uh, they will have rules and regulation, make people accountable when there are environmental impacts to be reconsidered. And lastly, they will encourage the civil society and other works, particularly labor and businesses and study and education, to undertake environment-related activities. Um, Especially addressing environmental issues and problems within local areas. Next section, section three. Section three. So this, when the coverage of the act, this means the application of the act. It shall be applied to anything related to water quality management, and this also follows with the abatement and control of pollution. And we hope to this act hopes to maintain high standards of water quality throughout Philippines. Next.
So Article 2 is the definition of terms. Here are some terms that which is just related to water quality and its improvement. So first, aquifer, it is a layer of water-bearing rock. It is confined or unconfined. Aquatic life talks about the organisms living in marine environment. So that those include fishes, plants, and more. Beneficial use is the use of the marine environment or water for the benefit of people and other living organisms. So this includes domestic, municipal, irrigation, power generation, fisheries, livestock raising, industrial and recreational. All of these uses are seen in our world, and we could actually benefit from each kind. So the classification or reclassification of Philippine waters. So these are categorized into quality, size, depth, surface area, use of the body of water, vulnerability of surface of water. So civil society that deals with water is the non-government organizations and people organizations. Cleaner production is the application of waste to reduce risk to the ecosystem and marine environment. Meanwhile, cleanup operations are activities to clean up these bodies of water. Contamination is the addition of chemicals or substance to water. The department handling water environment or water ecosystem is the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DNR for short. The discharge is the act of throwing or spilling of waste to bodies of water. The drinking water is the water that we actually drink every day, and humans need clean drinking water in order to survive. Dumping is the unauthorized or illegal disposal of chemicals or toxic waste to bodies of water. Effluent is discharge are discharges from known sources such as factories to bodies of water, and effluent standard is limitation or restriction. Next is environmental management. We also have environmental management system, fresh water, which that is water that contains less than 500 ppm. Groundwater is water that is beneath the water table. Groundwater vulnerability map. It's a map that shows where groundwater is most at risk. Hazardous waste, industrial waste, both of these are waste that affect the organisms in marine environment and humans as well. Next is the integrated water quality management framework. So this is actually a guideline on water quality. So water, it also incorporates water quality goals and targets, period of compliance, water pollution strategies and techniques, water quality information and education program, human resources development program. Next, margin, national water quality status report, and non-point source.
So continuing the definition of terms, point source is the identifiable source with specific point of discharge. Pollutant, this is a substance like solid, liquid, gas, radioactive that one alters the quality of the receiving body. Two is hazardous to health. Three impacts odor, temperature change, physical, chemical, and biological change. And four exceeds allowable limits of concentrations or quality standards specified. Pollution control technology. This pollution control pollution control devices or apparatus that can effectively prevent pollution of water and potentially infectious medical waste or any medical waste. And secretary is the DENR secretary. Um, so septage, this is the sludge produced in septic tanks. Sewage is the waterborne human or animal waste. Sewerage is the system of pipelines, ditches or channels. Sludge is the residue from the wastewater treatment plant. Surface water, this means that this these are the water subjected to surface runoff. Treatment is any method to alter any waste to reduce pollution. Toxic amount, this is the lowest amount of concentrations that may cause lethal conditions or effect to the aquatic life or health of persons. Waste, this is any material resulting from activities that is devoid of usage and discarded. Wastewater is the waste in liquid state. Water body is any natural or man-made bodies of water. Water pollution is any alteration of a water body resulting in an impairment of its purity or quality. Next slide. So, water quality is the characteristics of water by which the acceptability of water is evaluated. water quality guidelines. This is the level for a water constituent which are used to classify water resources and their use. So the Water Quality Management Area Action Plan, it contains the following: goals and targets, including sewerage program, the schedule of compliance to meet applicable requirements, water pollution control strategies or techniques, water quality information and education program, research requirements and possible sources, enforcement procedures of the plan, and rewards and incentives. Next slide.
So Chapter 7 deals with final provisions. Next slide. Chapter 7, Section 1 is appropriation. Next slide. An amount of 100 million pesos shall be appropriated from the savings of the national government to the department for the initial implementation of this act. Thereafter, the amount necessary to effectively carry out the provisions of this act shall be included in the General Appropriations Act of the year following its enactment into law, and thereafter. Next slide. Chapter 7, Section 32 is implementing rules and regulations. Next slide. The department, in coordination with the Committees on Environment and Ecology of the Senate and the House of Representatives, respectively, and other concerned agencies, shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations for this act within 1 year after the enactment of this act, provided that the rules and regulations issued by other government agencies and instrumentalities for the prevention and/or abatement of water pollution not inconsistent with this act shall supplement the rules and regulations issued by the department, pursuant to the provisions of this act. The draft of the implementing rules and regulations shall be published and be the subject of public consultations with affected sectors. There shall be a mandatory review of the implementing rules and regulations and standards set pursuant to the provisions of this act. Chapter 7, Section 33, Joint Congressional Oversight Committee. Next slide. There is hereby created a Joint Congressional Oversight Committee to monitor the implementation of the Act and to review the implementing rules and regulations promulgated by the department. The committee shall be composed of 5 senators and 5 representatives, to be appointed by the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, respectively. The Oversight Committee shall be co-chaired by the chairpersons of the Committee on Environment of the Senate and Committee on Ecology of the House of Representatives. Next slide. Section 34, Repealing Clause. Next slide. Presidential Decree number 984 is hereby repealed. Republic Act number 6969 and 4850 as amended. Presidential Decree number 1586, 1152, 979, and 856 are hereby amended and modified accordingly. All other laws, orders, issuance, rules, and regulations inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Next slide. Section 35, Separability Clause. Next slide. If any provisions of this Act or the application of such provision to any person or circumstances is declared unconstitutional, the remainder of the Act or the application of such provisions to other person or circumstances shall not be affected by such declaration. Next slide. Section 36, Effectivity. Next slide. This Act shall take effect 15 days from the date of its publication in the Official Gazette or in at least 2 newspapers of general circulation. Next slide.
Thank you very much. And that's the end of our presentation.